welcome to the Soccer Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Scott Mowbray, and in each episode I will discuss the key topics that impact on football coaching from the foundation and youth development phases. Thanks for listening, I hope you enjoy this episode. Hey Laurie, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Scott, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you very much. As always, I'm so grateful to the guests that give up their time to come on the podcast. So I'm very grateful to you. I know you've had a busy time. We've had a very brief chat before we've hit the record button, but we'll cover some of that stuff in a minute. But generally, how are things for you?
Oh, really good. Can't complain. The world's maybe going to pot a little bit, but you have to think positive all the time.
Well, I'll take the plaster on nice and quickly. Would you like to mention the England-Scotland game, or should we just pass that one straight away and get on to the other stuff?
Oh no, I'll go for a while, but depends on what happens on the results today. With Croatia. Yeah. But no, it was. I think the way Scotland play, if you have that passion and that drive, but also, as you talk about later, taking the risks. I always think if you take a risk, like the different football models we have in the world, we have to sometimes go for it. And if you're too conservative or too safe, then sometimes it just, for the fan, it doesn't look good. But also, I think players like to play just on the front foot all the time, and then I believe that's the way football should be played. But no, it should have been a win. But again, can't complain. To Wembley and a draw.
Got to be brave, and I think, yeah, exactly. I think the guys should be very proud of themselves and stuff. And it's a big game tonight. Are you feeling optimistic about tonight's result?
Oh yeah, I'm optimistic. Never pessimistic. Yeah. Optimistic, no matter what.
A true Scotsman.
Oh yes, half full.
Yeah, brilliant, Laurie. Brilliant, excellent. Well, look, we've got a great topic to cover today, and it's going to be good in the sense of, I think, timely from what's gone on for the last 18 months or so, a bit of looking at yourself as a coach and how you can invest good time in yourself. Before we get onto that, it's always good for the listeners to get a bit of background to you and what you've done up until this point. So are you happy to share kind of your journey and your playing and coaching career and what you currently do?
Yeah, so I've got a bit of an obsession with football from a young age. Played it, and then amateur football. And then when I was 10 years old, I had a traumatic brain injury. I had viral encephalitis, which is meningitis in the brain. I was told I wasn't going to walk again or basically live. But through the support of family, friends, and people around me, survived and had that kind of mindset of never giving up. I actually played with the Scotland Disability Football Team, where I was there for 5 years. Talk with Scotland versus England. Scotland beat England in the European Championships in 2009. I was part of that team, and that was great. But I always think the opportunity came around from the coach, or the disability officer, Stuart Sharp, who gave me that letter and the phone call, to try it out. And sometimes, if you don't try it, it doesn't work. But I've travelled the world. I've been to the Netherlands, America. We went to Finland too. It was about -25 that night, but that was great fun. But but through that, you get to play with people who are at a higher level. And we were ranked in the top 10 in the world. I think we were 6th in the world and 5th in Europe, which was a phenomenal achievement. But I always loved coaching. That's the thing. So through the university, got my degree in sports active lifestyles, and then every year I tried to improve my coaching. I had a set goal every 5 years to achieve something. But goals are very much, you can change them from short term to long term if you're improving. Completing my advanced children's license, and I'm just completing my A license at the moment. I just need to complete that. But COVID's going to hit a lot of pathway at the moment, but I'm hoping to complete that by the year. Coaching wise, I've coached young children from in the nurseries to under 13s to under 17s, boys and girls. And I was in charge. I was with the Glasgow Girls and Women. I was a club development officer, but I worked with the 13s and the development squad, but also working with the community, which was a great job. And then just been kind of working on a few things over the last 18 months, with COVID. It's not been great, but you can all turn negatives into positives, like speaking to people at different football clubs, just spending 20 minutes with people. You could just that little bit of extra edge, because I believe in a style. I believe in a forward thinking. Cruyff, the game's so simple. Let's just make it simple. But when we got the ball, let's get as wide as we can. When we got the ball, let's condense and make it as small as we can. But like the Red Bull model, I love the way you just take that ball and turn with the ball. I love the way that some people just take that ball in the back foot and go. You know what I mean? And there's sometimes, but again, Xavi, the king of scanning, he scanned everything, went and gone. And I think that's the way we should be. The world is at the moment. Everything's too safe. We need to sometimes. I'd rather go in like the Bielsa model. If you're 5-0 down, go and 1-6-5. I'd rather go and do that because I believe if the players are excited, the energy comes from the side. It comes from the team. And if you have that belief in the players, then they will believe in your style, but they believe in themselves more. But again, that all comes down to the environment. So yeah, I've been coaching 15 years, but I think I've aged about 40 years in the last 3 years.
That is the joys of coaching. That's definitely true. Brilliant. And are you still playing, or have you completely switched from playing to coaching now?
No, I just coach now. I play a little bit, like fives and all that. But it's there's a lot of things that have happened over the last maybe 5-6 years, just personal commitments, but also I think the team you hit your peak, you're good, but sometimes you have to go maybe into something that you're uncomfortable with to make yourself better, And I always remember when I played football, I was one of the better players, let's say, but I love the challenge every day. When you're training for example, in 2009, we were in the Euros, but it was at Torrey Glen in Glasgow. It was the launch of the sports centre, and we always get to just sacrifice a year of your life and just go for it. And I think we went. I was very quick, speed wise, but I was always told, can you be a bit quicker? Can you lose that little bit of weight? Can you move that bit more? And I was like, yes. And then, of course, when we played England, we scored in the extra time. And then I always remember the last minute of the game, the ball, we had a corner, and the ball get fired back up to the striker, who's 15 yards towards our goal. And I always hear as my coach shouting, run, 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 go, go, go. And I just loved it. But that's just me. But and then I made the tackle, you know what I mean? And I made sure I got the player through, but just as a bit of a thing. But I think the passion you need to have. If you don't love things you do, there's no point in doing it. And I love playing football from a young age. I love representing my country. The one thing I do is I love coaching and helping. I don't see the point in helping the players as much. You have to help the person. So if you help the person, I think one of my favourite quotes I put together is believe in the person, and the players are believing themselves more. But you have to build. That takes time, and if it's all about the environment, the way you have to coach, but have to be specific to what you want. If you want I don't believe in this like the autocratic leadership of this. I don't think it works anymore. But you need to have a fine balance, though. And I think before the podcast, Roberto Martinez, and I think I listened to him, and he said he's never lost a plot once. He's never raised his voice. He raises his voice when things have to happen, intensity and movements. But I don't see the point ever raising your voice, because there's no winners. You lose your voice, the players lose respect for you, and then it's just a doubt. The dressing room's down. But I don't believe in shouting. I think you can shout and encourage. Has to be a positive way of thinking.
Well, you probably touched on this a little bit in what you've said so far, and I'm getting a sense of this, but I wondered how you would describe kind of yourself as a coach and what your approach to coaching is. And maybe even if you've got like a philosophy or kind of fundamental principles that you think actually, whether I'm coaching under sixes or under 16s, boys, girls, whatever it may be, these are the things that I really value and this is my approach to coaching these players. I think you've touched on a few already, but how might you describe that in some more detail?
Yeah, so I believe in the when I'm working with it all depends on the age group. Young kids need to have fun, but there has to be a competitive element of some sort in it. I.e., like if you're doing 1v1s, okay, don't have 20 kids standing at the side 1v1. You could even very, very simply go put 6 goals out and number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and they've all got a ball each, and it's a competition. One's shoot 1 and 2. 1 and 2 have to go and score a goal, but the number ones there, if they score the goal first, they get the point. And it's just but ball mastery, boom, boom, boom. I think young kids, you need to have engaging games too, like TIG, all these, to make them look around, scan. But it's called hidden fitness, hidden scanning, because young kids do not need to know about counter pressing. They don't need to know about how to break the line or all these kind of things. Have fun, but build the philosophy of fun, competitive, and also that wee bit of element of technical ability and how to be resolute, because young kids, we struggle to sometimes, we have to pick them up all the time. Let them fall, let them make mistakes, because if you correct them all the time, they're not going to get any better. But this is where it comes to like the context. But see, I see a lot of young coaches and a lot of good young coaches, but see if you're not organised as a coach. Like, for example, if you turn up on a Tuesday night, 5 to 6, and you've got nothing planned, but you've taken presentation from Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola or Julian Nagelsmann, there's no context to it. These are working with adults, young kids. You can easily do an hour and a half of just a bit of invasion games, i.e. TIG, something like that, and then ball mastery, a bit of small-sided games, 1v1s in a condition game. Kids will be happy. They've scored lots of goals and everyone's happy. But when it comes to older children or young people, you have to be organised. I'm really a stickler for people on time. That's the thing. If you're there, your training starts at 7, be there for 7:15. But see if you know that the road's closed or something, leave earlier, because see that if you're made the first time, you won't make the mistake the second time. And also, see if I will always believe, see if your standards are low, and player standards are low. But if you have high standards, but this all comes down to working with the team. Like the manager, the coach, the captain, but you write things down. 5 rules, doesn't have to be 10 rules, 20 rules. My philosophy is very much a European style, but with actually European style, but it's like a hybrid model. You know what I mean? Like, I believe in you can defend like Italy, like the Catenaccio, the Calcio model. Everything's it's all movement. I always remember Paolo Maldini said, if you make a tackle, it's you've lost the ball pretty much. It's all about working with young players to develop that skill. But I believe that you can create 3 or 4 models into one. You like a Cruyff. I love Johan Cruyff, the way he thinks, the way he rondos. I love movements, the simple football. Football is a simple game, but let's work on. I don't see people who you go into the streets. I think street football is gone. But what about a kid who just kicks a ball off a fence for an hour? They're working their technique, and people laugh at that because it's not the norm. No, that person, that ball could be going at different angles. I'm taking that ball, I'm turning every 2 seconds, and they could even just put a wee goal at the side or a wee set of cones, turning and scoring, and working with a parent or a friend. Working the way I believe football should be played is very much keep it simple, but let's go forward with the ball. I always think my expression to the players is go forward. So play forward, look forward, go forward. I think if you can look forward, always taking that touch forward, because a pass, you knock the ball forward 1 yard, a player has to go and engage, or they don't engage. If you stack it between the sides, nobody's going to engage. Yeah. So you have to let them play. But forward is also pressing. I love the Guardiola, the 5-second rule. 5 seconds, 5 people go forward and 5 passes gets you forward. Well, sometimes long balls sometimes has to happen. But again, you have to be organised.
I mean, I'd written down be brave. So I think that's coming through clear in what you're saying and your approach to how you like your football to be played and how the players embrace that. How do you, part of that must come from the environment you create then for the players, because actually be brave means being, able to take risks and try things, and then obviously there's mistakes and stuff. So how do you encourage the players that you coach to be brave, and how would you recommend other coaches who want to adopt a similar philosophy to kind of create an environment in which players can be brave? Because I hear it a lot, Laurie, I honestly do, but walking around seeing training sessions and seeing matches, that be brave message can be gone quite quickly when there's a bit of bad body language from a coach, or the wrong word is said by a coach, or there's a mistake made by a player. Is it something that you're conscious of in your message to your players, since if you want to be brave, how you go about that in the environment you set for them at training and in matches?
Yeah, but again, I think you need to be vulnerable too as a coach. That's the one thing. It's you work in a very, I don't want to say that, a very macho world, like everything's, if you don't, and I think I love listening to Drew Broughton, the ex footballer. He talks about here, but we struggle with young kids. If they make a mistake, we step in. No, let them make the mistake. Let them. But the issue is coaches, and it's I put my hat out to all the volunteers and all the coaches and the dads and the mums, the grandpa, and all the volunteers. But you don't need to step in every 2 seconds to let them, not every, see the young kids at 6, 7, 8, they're not going to be getting Premier League medals at that age. Let them make the mistake. You've seen I watched a documentary on Riyad Mahrez, in the suburbs of Paris. He made a mistake all the time because he tried. See, if you can coach the technique, but see the issue is you need to learn how to step back a little bit and go, do you know what? Let's make it from a holistic point of view. If they're making the same mistake 3 or 4 times, you jump in and ask the question. But see if we try. You can tell a defender how to defend. Okay, how do you defend? Well, you can teach them. I always think you should just do 3 things and that's it. See this. I see coaches, and it's quite interesting. You see a lot of good coaches, but they want to spend 10 minutes talking to the player in this 1 minute of exercise. Literally, let them see that 10 minutes. Let them see. I always say possession. We have to have a very high intense game. 3 minutes, 1 minute of me. They get a drink and I chat for 10 seconds. That's just what we're going to do. And you always see the smallest wee thing. You can talk to them individually about how to develop their skill a little bit more, but it's the environment. But see, I always think Chris Ramsey talked about a strength-based approach. I think that's we need to have a way of thinking of, can we empower the kid, empower the player, empower the person. Person is the number one thing. And this is where it gets like, you have to say, be brave. Being brave is not about being the best coach. It's about being the best for that person. And if they really struggle with the information, I always think some kids will not listen to you, but they may watch you do something in a tactics sport, or for the older ones, video analysis is a big thing. But people, young people, older people, young players, there's no one way of learning. You can learn it from watching another player. You can speak to the coach. You can get a session, or there's about 100 ways you can learn. But you have to find what's the best for that person and that player, because if you do not, you have to. The coach will always believe in the player in that kind of way, because that's their job. But the players will struggle with the coach sometimes because of the misunderstanding. And it's all about communication. And we talk about in the game, it's usually 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes. Usual. Well, it could be 3.5 minutes, 3.5 minutes, 3.5 minutes, or you could do to 12 minutes and just literally have a 30-second break, hypothetically, and just speak to them, about the mistakes. But you need to be very, very, very clear on what you want. And I play very much, I love 3-4-3, 3-5-2, the stepping into midfield, let's go for it. But that's months and months of practice with that formation. But see, when we need to flip it to a 4-3-3, they know what to do because they've learned it. But that's, see, when this is where another thing, coaches don't do everything. The players might see things that the coach might not see, but it takes an even braver coach to admit a mistake and taking, all right, let's say, just hypothetically, John Smith, he's the player and he's seen that the back three, the left centre back's a bit slower, and the coach has not seen that. But our fastest player is actually on the left hand side. Put them on the right hand side. But you see it from the Barcelona women, the Chelsea women, the PSG, the Lyon, they all interlink. But one thing is the coach energetic because they need to be sometimes. Because I believe coach can drive the intensity to an extent. But what they can't, once they pass the white line, it's the players. But again, that all comes down to preparation,
shouldn't it? It should be a collaboration, and you're right. And it's a good point, Laurie, because I think what, again, I see a bit of is you see some wonderful training sessions where it's very coach-centered. Even the practices are very good and there's lots going on. But because it's very coach-centered and there's not a lot of ownership by the players or accountability, or involvement in the process, when it comes to maybe matches, and things change, or there's some things a bit, that they hadn't planned for, which happens often in games, then they can't necessarily handle that because they've not had to handle the training process as well. So they're not part of that. And, I think the more you remove yourself as a coach, some ways, the better. I mean, you want to be there to help your players when you need to be there, right? And that's the job. But almost the less you have to do that, the better. And the more they can help themselves, well, then that's quite good coaching, because never to be in a game, you can't go out on the pitch and start kicking the ball for them. And actually, how much you may shout from the sidelines, it can get lost in the noise and the translation. And that kind of just shows to me that maybe you've not got your training quite right. So the more it's a collaboration with the players, then hopefully the better it's going to be for them in their own development.
Oh, definitely. And I believe that this, I've been to many events, and it's some of the events I go to, see the ones that have got the big, huge names.
Yeah.
The ones that are, no disrespect, the smaller names are actually sometimes better because they get the idea across of, I think the way that you need to be a very much a people-centered approach, people talk about player-centered, it has to be a people-centered, because the way the world is at the moment, information, people can't talk to each other very well, not at the moment, but a lot of but people struggle to face-to-face, and it's concentration of 10 seconds, like, all right, I'm going to take my phone out, literally. But see the respect you have. If you've got a player who needs your help them, because they need that little bit of extra support. But see that on the Saturday, see that extra little bit of support, that extra half an hour in the training field, an extra 10 minutes of different kind of movements. That can be the difference between winning and losing in a game. But again, some players will not get it, and that's just life. I mean, there's such a variety of professional to semi-pro to amateur to working in the women's game, professional, semi-pro, amateur. There's such a big gap. Maybe the technical and tactical, but see when it comes to communication and movements, and everyone talks. People struggle. It's so funny. You see the players talk off the field, but some players struggle to talk on the field. But then you looked at I watched Barcelona in the Champions League, the women's side, and they were unbelievable because the movement was, I'm going to press, I'm going to win. And I was listening to Luis Cortez talk about it with a mutual friend, and he said the reason why is because the players see when one presses, the person tells them, I'm going to go, you take this, you take that, and I'm moving it. But comes from that Cruyff movements of passive 1-2s, rondos, small-sided games. You could spend hours in a tactical battle. Sometimes you just have to go for it. I mean, I think the way football is, if you go for it, you're 2-0 up at half time. It's the worst score in the world because you don't know what to do. If you, I always think you can win the game in the first half and control the game in the second half. But then in the second half, I would actually go and say, if you're 3-0 up, go and win 4-0. You know what I mean? Just who I am. But that's the way I am. As a coach, I believe in a very much attacking minded. First defender is the attacker, is the striker, and the first attacker is the goalkeeper. You know what I mean? Like it's very simple. Just but I read a lot on Cruyff and the Barcelona legacies and the Ajax way, and it's all he says is very much, let's keep the ball simple. You know what I mean? Let's get the ball movement. You know what I mean? And take our chances. But it's about timing. You have to time your runs. You have to time things. But that takes practice. But again, I'm not an expert in any way. None of us are. But I believe you can. I believe it is. You're working your technique, your tactical up here mentally. You're going to be more tuned in. You know, like Eddie Jones said in a podcast, the High Performance podcast. He said, I want the players to be mentally ready because they will be tactically and technically better. Yeah, if they're tuned in more. I thought, brilliant.
Well, Laurie, one of the first times I came across you and heard you and what you were doing was through your own podcast, which is the Curve Mindset podcast, which was going. And I'm a big fan of it. I listened to lots of episodes, and before we started doing this, we were listening. There was like maybe 4 or 5 that I really liked, and that was one of them. I found them interesting. So a bit of background to how that came about and your own experience of going through being the podcast host and what you may have learned on that journey too.
Yeah. So I created something, I think it was 3 years ago, with I put something out on LinkedIn, and it was, I believe it, the world, I read Simon Sinek start with why do you want to do things, you know, and then infinite mindset, you know, the infinite series he talks about having that infinite mindset, Carol Dweck's work, because see on the coaching courses, a lot of these coaching courses do not, like if you're doing a license, it's good, there's a bit of psychology in it, but what's happening here, what's going on here? So I was interested in how different mindsets work and how people deal with different setbacks. When I put something out on my LinkedIn, as I said, and I got a response from one of my friends called Craig. He's the other co-founder, but I had no idea how. I had an idea of questions, and I had the bare bones of things, but I needed someone maybe with a bit more experience working with technology. So I reached out, we chatted for a couple of weeks about ideas, and then we put together our first one. I think it was Bruce Aitchison. He does Happiness is Egg-Shaped. It's hilarious. Such a good motto of rugby, you know. But I came across this and I thought, okay, this is good. And then, of course, the usual, you try and put it on your Podbean, no idea what we're doing. So we finally managed to get it on Spotify and iTunes. But I researched a lot of good guests like Alison McCaw, who's a close friend, Steve Salas. I know he was on that High Performance podcast too. It was excellent. I love listening to him. But I think the way I look at it is you've got people who are at the elite level and you've got people who are at the grassroots level, or, you know, and I think you need to learn that sometimes people who are at the highest level have a lot. They want to share more. But see the people who are at the grassroots, or their stories are still very interesting because you can learn so much more from people who live a normal life, you know, or who are maybe not as famous, you know. Like, I believe in the way we put it together. Like, we've got some really big names, and we took a break for last year just because of different personal things and COVID, but I think we're going to launch it probably the start of next year again with different ideas, because we had an idea, boom, 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 but we didn't really know what was happening. So it was a bit, you know, how to create more information. But sometimes I like interviewing, but see, the one thing I was always told is be authentic in your interview. If you make a mistake, don't edit it out because it looks better. I'm like, okay. And of course, I got edited out and it looked like a bit of a clown, but no, I think the way you need to look at, you need to be out of your comfort zone, you know, and I think the way the world is, think you don't grow it. You can't grow in your comfort zone. Nothing grows in it. You have to be uncomfortable, and I believe that's the world we live in. Like we'll talk about later about the different ideas on how to create a more effective person of yourself.
Well, on that note then, first of all, I hope you do carry on with the podcast because it is excellent and I've listened to lots of the episodes previously and I saw there was a break and I'm hopeful that you'll get it back going again because it's a different angle. I think all the podcasts come at things slightly different regardless of what the topics may be, and I'd highly recommend people to listen to the stuff. Your back catalogue stuff's already out there, but I'm looking forward to new stuff as well. But it moves us quite nicely onto the main theme of this episode for this podcast, and that's really about how important it is for coaches to invest time in themselves. And I know that's something that you're passionate about and you spent a lot of time thinking and talking about. So I guess, just the first question is, how important is it that coaches do this?
Oh, it's major. It's the number one thing. The number one thing you need to do is invest in yourself. Okay, I believe I've got a Spanish teacher and a French teacher. Okay, I did my research on who could help me the most. I've got a Spanish teacher who understands football a lot, so she helps me with different like the different parts of the football field. But also, we have half an hour in English and half an hour in Spanish. So I go out of my comfort zone, really. But I've been doing this for 4 months. The improvement, I'm nearly fluent in Spanish. Probably another 2 months before I'm probably fluent. In French, I've only started I think, getting something like Duolingo, 20 minutes a day. And see if you make a mistake, who cares? The only person who's the mistake is yourself. But you've made an attempt. Listening to a podcast, the biggest thing is, see if you can go a walk for an hour, listen to a podcast, you've done your steps, you've got a bit of physical activity, and you've listened to something that could change your life, hypothetically. I think the gym's such a big aspect too of going to the gym. I think the thing is people make excuses, and it's very hard to this is a lot of people have got a lot of things going on in the background and all that, but a release, endorphins, a walk for 20 minutes will not. Take your kids walking with you, you know what I mean? You don't need to go and listen to a podcast. Go to the gym for 20 minutes. Read a book. I always remember Jamie Alderton. He talked about he's a personal trainer, but he's also an influencer, and he talked about. So I'll ask you this, Scott. How many? See if you were to read 35 books in a year, would that be quite daunting?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, what if I said if you read a chapter a day for the full year, how many books do you think you would read then?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Yeah, I think I could do that. So, you'd probably get through about 30 books, wouldn't you? Yeah, it's a different way of looking at it.
So you have to look at it from an optimistic point of view. People see the Spanish, learning Spanish. I'm pretty much fluent in Spanish. I can understand French. I can pick up I can understand a bit of Portuguese. I've started to put together the Nordic languages, Norwegian and Swedish, because there's maybe opportunities to go and work there or learn. But the thing about it is, see if you go to Spain or France or Germany or even Belgium, everyone's expected to speak English. Why don't, I think it's Johan Cruyff, he put together, you can tell I'm a bit obsessed with people who are very, very, but he put in his autobiography, he said, I think it was one of his the trainers, and he said, go and explore the world and learn new languages because you will fit into a new environment. You will learn new environments. You'll learn how to communicate more, how to deal with different cultures. But it's like in Scotland and England, and this is, I believe, see in schools, it should be a mandatory to learning a language. Like people go to high school, but see if there's 6 subjects and someone's struggling a little bit, they sacrifice the foreign language all the time for some odd reason. that language could potentially help that person. Like, you don't need to speak 20 languages. It's not like that. But see if you make an effort with someone. Like, I've got a Spanish teacher, but I've also got a couple of good Spanish friends, but they don't speak very good English. So I speak everyone pretty much in Spanish, but they try and it's a bit slower, but we get there. See, that way you can get an invite to to a club because you've made the effort. If you want to hypothetically be working in Spain, well, you need to learn the language, pretty much. Like, if you want to learn, it's like we go to like England, we go to like Spain or France, as I say, and we just go, oh, give us 2 beers or give us something. No, that's it. If you make an effort, that you make like dos cervezas por favor, and then you could ask for something else. See that later, you're going to be more impressed. But it's just we struggle to go out our comfort zone because we're embarrassed because we are going to make a mistake. Who cares? I really couldn't care if I make a mistake or not, because you make an effort with someone, and I always think, interviews, you have to, if it's going to be in a foreign language, if you smash that interview in a foreign language, they're more, the person who's had the more experience or the more knowledge, they're not going to pick that person. They're going to pick the person who's expanded their knowledge even more. But I think the 5 things that I look at is listen to a podcast, go for a walk, go and do Duolingo for 20 minutes, read a book, and networking is huge. Go and ping a message to someone. Hi, my name is Laurie. I've heard you're really good at helping people, yada yada. Is there any chance I could spend? See if you say 5 minutes, people will give you 5 minutes. Yeah. You spend an hour, they're going to tell you to go away. You know what I mean? But you have to see that middle person. That middle person might get you a better job or maybe get you a better contact. And you have to sometimes be that a wee bit vulnerable and a little bit of acceptance that you might not get the answer you want.
Well, it's funny, Laurie, isn't it? Because once again, it happens quite a lot on the podcast when we talk about any topic, the correlation between what we ask from our players to do and what we should be doing as, I guess, the adults in the room. And what you're saying here is actually as coaches, we want to be brave. The same thing we said about the players, right? We want the players to be brave and go out there and try things and, and embrace the challenges that maybe the training or the matches are going to throw at them. But actually as coaches, we've got to do that as well. And maybe not just as coaches, but as people, right? We've got to experiment different things. And you made 2 really good points around the language element. I think one is actually maybe we get scared ourselves about using the language, especially overseas. And it's quite easy because a lot of people are very good at speaking English and we're not always good at speaking Spanish, French, whatever else. So it's about being brave, and sometimes it's a confidence issue. But second of all, I think sometimes it's not even the language really, it's the culture. I've got some Italian friends, and my Italian is pretty much non-existent and their English is okay, but actually it doesn't matter, because I think when you embrace each other's culture and you have a connection there anyway, it almost goes past the language. Yes, it's nice to be able to converse and have the language and be able to talk, don't get me wrong. But actually, I think if you embrace the culture of these different ways of living and being, then actually the language is almost superficial. It's second to that. It's not the most important thing. And I wonder if sometimes we get lost on the wrong thing. So when I hear you speaking and you're speaking about the language, to me, it seems more than just language. It's actually you embracing the culture of understanding how Spain is and what it's about, and also with France as well. Would that be fair to say?
Oh yeah, but I don't know if you watched the documentary Gary Neville had. He talked about the fact of his job at Valencia, and obviously he had about a month to learn the language, and he was trying to learn the full language. No, you pick. See if you're not going to, like, for example, if you put me in a club in Germany, all right, I would pick. So I've got a month to learn German. It's physically impossible. All right, it would be very hard. Sorry, nothing's impossible. I don't like that expression. But it'd be extremely difficult. Okay, but instead of making excuses or all this, I would see if someone said to me, "You've got a 1 month." See, at 9 o'clock in the morning. See, at 10 o'clock, I'll be looking for tutors right away, just to help me for that 1 month. I don't need you to. But the one thing is, depends on where it is. So it's let's say it's Munich. A lot of people. It's a kind of more cultural, but it's a very high belief, because obviously Bayern Munich, and it's a more kind of a winning culture there. But then what if you've got like Cologne, or maybe a less smaller team, like they might not understand the language, the English. See if you make an effort, like striker, and just if you make an attempt to get key words in, you can have a translator, no worries. But you can't go in, like, for example, if I'm going to, as I said, Germany, or even like Denmark or something like that, or Finland, I need to know what the culture's like, what the people are like, so I know, can I go in with this approach of all guns blazing, of like attack, or are these players are going to go, wow, I have no idea. First of all, he doesn't speak the language. Second of all, it doesn't understand the culture. And third of all, see the experiences we're going to have. It's going to be tragic. But you have to do your research first. Like if you're going to go to a different country, you can't go, oh, I'm going to turn up, and basically say, oh, I speak little of the language. I'm not really sure what's happening. But then if you know your research, okay, I know that this part of the country is really into this, and then you embrace the culture, because if you embrace things, people will help you so much more. If you don't engage with people, don't engage with things, people are going to go, I'm not interested in this guy, I'm not interested in this person. It's all about, as you say, culture is the biggest thing. You have to, don't say walk the talk, you need to walk the walk too. You know what I mean? And if you're asking the players to do something, you're not doing it, they're going to tell you to, bolt very much. But again, depends on the context of the players, where you're working, what kind of background. Is it a toxic environment you're getting into? Is it a friendly environment? Is it if it's football related, or is it sport related? But you would have to know this information beforehand. But I think if you make an effort with people, they will help you.
With coaching, whether you do it, as a volunteer parent, or for a grassroots team, or whether you're doing it as a full-time career job, the lines can quite easily blur, can't they? Between, it can take over. Even we've all been there. Even with a little under-6 grassroots team, you can end up spending a lot of your week thinking about stuff. Is it important that for coaches you have some time away from football? Is it a good idea to have a passion as well? I mean, even if we love the football and everything about it, is it good to take a break sometimes and actually stretch yourself in other ways? I mean, obviously you've used the language as an example there, but I guess in some ways that's still related to football, because you're kind of thinking about how you use Spanish in the context of football. But do you think it's a good idea to have maybe also something that kind of gets you to switch off a little bit from the whole world of coaching and football?
Well, my wife probably disagrees. I'm totally obsessed. But this is where I guess. So let's say you work full time, all right, 9 to 5, right, and you're coaching. And that's a passion. You should never let your personal or working life involve your professional life. I think so. You should never take, if you've had a bad day of work, don't take it out on the children or the team. That's the one thing. I actually went away for a couple of weeks ago. I went into no internet, no nothing. It was great. 2 days on the beach, very much, not abroad, but just out south. And what did we do? We went walking, we went travelling, we went and explored the places. I went to a place I didn't know existed, like this. But the one thing is, see, if you can't go away all the time, that's the one thing, but you can turn yourself off. Now, this is where you go. See if you've got, like, for example, I started at 6:30 this morning just because I had things to do. I don't usually do 6:30. I usually go up at 7, half an hour, but no difference. But I don't believe in this early bird thing. I'm just an early riser. But see the people, I see a lot of things on social, people going, oh, I'm working to 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in analysis. Great. You can't sustain that amount of energy. So I always believe, like, I'll go out, I schedule a walk. I go for a walk in the morning. I go for an hour and a half to clear my head and go. But I always go for a lunchtime walk with my wife, because that's our time to talk about things. People might not have that luxury, but instead of going, see, 12 to 1, people, I can guarantee, and I'm maybe wrong, but see, people jump on their phone for an hour. See, there's 3 people standing right there. Let's go for a walk and explore. No, we'll spend an hour on our social and moan and playing about life. No, just go. It's like the Chin Paradox. You know, the great book that. See if you, let's say you get cut off on the motorway. You're going to tell the person, oh, this person coming. You've no idea. That person may be an older person, or maybe a person's not seen things, it might have a person's a bad day. You know, I don't see them. I'll figure out very quickly when I overtake them again. To see the thing about it, you have to look at the context. Yeah. You talk about turning off. People struggle to turn off because we live in a 24/7 world. But I always say, see if you're going to go, I always say schedule one night or 2 nights a week, weekdays with your family, you know, or your wife. I go to the cinema once a week. That's our time. I work on a Sunday with the team I'm working with, on a Tuesday night and a Thursday night. But Monday, Wednesday, Fridays are night. But I'll still do stuff, you know, to get my brain. See at 5, my wife finishes at 6. That's me. No, it's every time in the night. 6 o'clock, that's me. I do not answer calls. I don't answer emails. I don't answer anything because that's our time. But if it's an emergency, people phone me. But you can't switch off properly. But see, the number one thing people have, everyone has a phone in their hand. I see it when people drive, when people talk. I don't know if it's just me, Scott, but see that a lot of young coaches, they have a phone out when they're coaching and they say it's a stopwatch. What's wrong with a watch? Yeah. What's wrong with a stopwatch? And this is where it gets like...
It doesn't look right, does it, Laurie? It's such a true point. It doesn't look right, does it? Because even if they are looking at a watch something else, it looks like they're on their phone. And again, it sends that message that you're not really engaged in the session or something. And it's a good point. And you know, I've not mentioned it, but it's a little bugbear of mine. And you see it more and more creeping in, that the phone's in their pockets and they can't help but have a little look every, you know, and maybe it is the time, but like you say, you can tell with the time, can't you? Almost, you get a sixth sense of if you've been 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes and what's left. Yeah.
But no, I think we have to learn how to. I don't think we should put like a schedule together, you know, like if you say I'm going to, so like I know what's happening this week, you know, with different things. I've got a schedule of what I need to do. But sometimes see this to-do list. I've got a to-do list the size of like it's an article, it's like an essay. But I'm not going to go and achieve that. But there's 3 non-negotiables I have. And it's always to say, I go for a walk, I read a book, I read a chapter, and do Duolingo. Do the 3 things. That takes me 1 hour. That's it. 1 hour of my life. But even if the hour, maybe half an hour of my life for that walk, 10 minutes of Duolingo and 10 minutes of a chapter, because I need to do it as part of my mental health, my physical health. Some people might need to go do something else. I don't really know what else you can do. You know, like I'm very much I believe in you don't need a structure as such, but you need to be organised to know what's happening. I think people struggle. See when there's a lot to do, there's not a lot of time.
Yeah.
People struggle to prioritise what's important, what's not important. And then because of that, some people will just basically miss out. But I always say, don't make your list too long. Make it 3 or 4 things, and you can add to it. It's like having a jumper. It's too hot, take it off. If it's too cold, you can't put it back on. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It's like that kind of way of thinking.
And you share some good ideas around things that you've done. If you don't mind sharing, just what's the benefits been then? So you've done these things, you've invested in your time, you kind of got a rough schedule about how your day and your week works, and you listen to your podcast, you've got the gym, walking, books, bit of work. What have you found the benefits from investing this time back in yourself? How's that helped?
Well, I think the best advice is, see if you invest time in yourself, see if you talk to someone and they're a football person and they know, then you can bounce ideas. If you don't invest any time in yourself, we live in a world where we want to please everyone. But you know, like we want to, like for example, something happens out in the street or something like that, we film it on our phone and all that. Go and ask the person, how are you? What's going on? Are you okay? Do you need some help? And then it seems like we're very reactive instead of proactive, you know. I think the benefits of the lockdown, you know, like it's been a tragic thing for a lot of people, but we need to you can't live in a life of fear. You need to live in a life of, you know, we're only on this planet for a short time. Let's make the most of it. If you're going to go for it, you need to, but this is where you need to think. You have to calculate your move. That's the thing. It sounds like I'm, sniper or something like that, you know what I mean? But you have to calculate things. So if you're going to go to another country, you need to know what's happening. You need the contract. You need everything signed, dotted. Everything ready, because people, including myself, I've made the mistake of sacrificing something, and it didn't work out. But you learn from your mistakes.
Yeah.
But the one thing is, people have bad experiences. There is a lot of really, really good people in the world. Football coaches, there's a minority of people who are basically not that nice. And somehow some people just get them kind of people. But instead of turning it into that kind of thing, well, what did you learn from it? Well, I learned that I maybe talked too much, or I made the mistake here. But let's turn it into a positive. What did you do? Oh, I brought this in, I brought that in, I've done this, I've done that. For example, I'm not a England Scottish fan, you know what I mean? But you see England, everyone's having a meltdown about England. They've got 4 points, they've qualified, but because they didn't play well, it's like we live in a pessimistic world when we should really just be thinking, wow, and, like Scotland, hopefully they qualify, by the time this goes out, hopefully they will be. But if they don't, then, they've done really well. England, look at the Dutch, they were tragic in the last couple of years. And then Frank de Boer plays this new system, but not the Dutch way, 3-5-2, and everyone's calling go 4-3-3, sorry, 4-3-3, or 3-4-3, the Cruyff way, and it is the right way. But you have to see if you've got the players. You need to put the players into the right positions. If you've not got the players to do it, you can't play that way. But again, all becomes down to your context and the way you have to think. But I always believe if you can create, my biggest advice is go and do something about it. People talk, I'm going to learn a language. What have you done? Nothing. Well, 10 minutes of your life, it might change your life in a year's time. And I'm religious with my Duolingo. I think I'm on 550 days because I believe that's the way I work. But I want to achieve something. And if I don't get a job in Spain, I don't mind. I can go and see, let's say there's a job going in France or Germany, there's a Spanish player coming across. Oh, I'm speaking to this person here. You have to think more holistically and around the world a bit more.
And sometimes the journey itself is as important as the result, right? You might not always get necessarily the result you want, but actually the journey itself, it adds value anyway. Just embracing that and being part of that is a positive thing. We asked this question to all the guests that come on the podcast, and I'll be intrigued to know what your thoughts are. If there was one thing you could change about the world of coaching, what might that be?
Well, maybe a bit controversial, but I think the world of coaching, you need to look at the person. When you're hiring or you're looking at, this is maybe, I'll put another part to the question in a sec, but I think we're very quick in hiring good coaches or good ex-pros, and they're very, very good. But there's a lot of good non-ex-pros out there who are very good too. And I think there should be a balance. I think fast-tracking coaches I don't think it's the right way, in my eyes. Maybe I'm wrong, but some people need fast track. I agree, but I think the world we live in, there's a lot of coaches out there, young coaches, older coaches, experienced coaches, but then some people don't want to go to the top or don't want to work at an elite level. They want to work at a grassroots or a youth. That's great, but if you want to be ambitious about something, you could do this. But that's the kind of way I would think you should maybe go. I think there's a lot of good coaches out there, but they're not in the right job. You've seen it in the summer, the merry-go-round, there's about 20 coaches in and out of jobs, all in the women's game, the men's game. And just look at Sarri, for example. He was at Napoli, was at Empoli, then Napoli, Chelsea, back to Juventus, they'll come back to me. It's about, what a great coach, but how can you implement the same style? In 6 years, he's went to 4 different clubs. It's impossible to have that consistency, and you look at I'm not a Rangers or Celtic fan. I'm a football fan. But you look at Steven Gerrard, like he did well at 18s, and then he went to Rangers, and the first 2-3 years didn't go as planned. But the one thing you need to do is give people time. Yeah. It doesn't matter, but see if you've got a big name, you get a bit more time. But if you're not a big name, you need to learn to trust the person, because the person knows what they're doing, but they might be a little bit less experienced, but they need to just you need to be brave. Yeah. You know what I mean? Take as we talk about, but you need to make a decision. And sometimes, see, the decision is not popular with the fans, but that person's job is to make sure. You could give it a big name and they could last 3 months. Yeah. But I think the world we live in, as I say, we need to think. But rule-wise, I don't like this offside rule. I think they should give the strikers the advantage in my eyes, but off by a millimetre, it's a load of nonsense. Give the player the advantage, the striker the advantage, because. But then, as I said, I'm a football fan, but it's going to go against my team probably. But there's such a different way of thinking. But I think VAR works. I think it's worked very well in this Euros, very, very quick. The one thing is, I've seen it in the Champions League final, the Spanish referee talked to the players. And this is the problem. The players, see if you dive, yellow card. Like, I don't agree. I agree with this thing. But see this, you have to talk to the players and tell them. Because see if you have no communication with the players don't know what their line is. And I thought he was excellent in the Champions League final, and I think he was good again in the Scotland-England game. You need to be a strong ref or a strong coach to deal with pressure. But the one thing is, you need to believe in yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself, there's people who will believe in you, but you need to have that wee bit confidence, so that a wee bit of arrogance about yourself too, about how to, if you want to go to that next level.
Laurie, that's been superb. What keeps coming up throughout is, the be brave, believe in yourself, support your own journey, and invest time in yourself for your own health and well-being. And I think, given the last 18 months, that's all great advice, and you've explained it really well. So thank you so much. I'm really grateful for your time. If listeners want to find out more about you and what you're up to, or reach out to you, is there a good way of doing that?
Yeah, just I'm quite active on Twitter. You'll probably see the most positive person ever. Just before there was I was in Carlisle a couple 3-4 years ago, and went to see John Richardson, and he said at the half time, is a Laurie McGinley? And I'm like, I'm just put my hand up. And he's like, do not dare put your hand up. You know what I mean? Because the most positive person ever here. But no, my Twitter, you'll find me at Laurie McGinley 1. I'm quite active. I don't engage with a lot of people, you know what I mean? But again, I don't see the point in debating, publicly. And I think I'm always very happy to chat to different coaches about youth, about seniors, but also different foreign coaches, how the different world works. And I think we need to be brave to go, as I say, that's the number one thing, be that person to go and engage with other people.
Brilliant, Laurie. Thanks so much. What we'll do is we'll put your Twitter handle in our show notes as well, so people can get that if they want to. I'm really grateful for your time. I know you've got some exciting plans ahead. So maybe at some point in the future, you can come back on and share your next journey and stuff. We won't say too much today, because I know it's kind of hot off the press, but, seeing how things unfold with what you're up to, if you're happy to come back on at some point, would that be all right?
Oh, perfect. I love chatting football. I get 1 hour a week from people, so it's great.
Well, I'm going to book you in for a few of those moving forward. And hopefully you'll get the podcast up and running again soon, because I'll be listening when those episodes start going back out again. So keep us posted on that as well.
Okay, thanks again.
Great. Thanks, Laurie.